Alright guys, now that our Glock has been completely stripped and degreased, I'm just going to show you some steps that I personally take. I'm not really particular on what kind of solvents or anything I use. It's just M-Pro 7 gun cleaner, and the only thing I really use this on is the inside of the barrel, just to make sure there's no deposits or carbon buildup, copper, or any of that sort of stuff. And I just sprayed in there. I'm just going to let that sit. Now, I'll reiterate. Make sure you check some of your parts, like your extractor for any wear, and your firing pin or your striker, the same thing, any wear that's coming off. And it all looks pretty good. And just check some of your rails for any odd wear. And I don't see anything. I mean, this gun has a couple thousand rounds through and it still looks pretty damn good. Your locking block, everything looks good there. And your trigger spring. Now this is one of the springs you're going to, at some point I'll probably end up replacing, which is this spring right in here. Oh, damn it. There we go. Which is that guy right there. Sorry. And it still has a lot of life in it, but I know I got to be getting close to about the 5,000 round mark on this thing. So I'll end up replacing that spring, or just go ahead and get all the Glock springs. Like there's your I think extractor retention. I don't know the nomenclature for all these damn parts. I think this is your extractor plunger. We'll replace that. And of course, at some point, this is the most important spring you got, is your guide rod spring, and that's what sends your slide back home again. So, all right, it looks pretty greased up. So I'll just take a brass brush and just throw that thing on there, and we'll just run that through there once or twice. I know, oh no, you're going backwards in the threads and you're going to screw the stuff up. Okay, this is plastic, that's aluminum, that's copper. Nothing on here is more dense or harder than the steel that the barrel's made out of, so you're not going to mess it up. So just give me a break. So scrub this once or twice. Alright, that looks good. And then I'll grab a mop, which is the soft, squishy, furry, caterpillar looking thing. And we'll put that on there and just sort of mop it out. Give it a check. I don't know if you guys can see down that bad boy, but it's all shiny. Good to go. Alright, now for grease, actually let's go ahead and get this thing put back together real quick. So we'll start with our slide. We'll put in first, we'll drop our extractor in, which there's a hole right there, and that's what this goes into. It just drops in just like that, and then our extractor, I don't know, plunger, button, whatever it is, that's going to go in right there. And there we go. So I'm sorry, this dude goes in first, then your extractor, and that holds your extractor in. Then we get this dude, metal end down, and then our striker. And now, let's see, there's our back plate. Now this is going to be under some tension, so we'll get our pin or punch, which is a 3/32 punch, which is, you can take down an entire Glock with just a 3/32 punch. Don't try to get anything smaller or bigger, just 3/32 punch. It's not that much. Just go grab you one, and we'll sort of get it set in the rail and get this pushed down, and then get that plunger pushed down, and that's in there. And that's all good to go. So there's that. We'll put our not barrel just a second. Alright, now for our frame, we'll put our trigger assembly in, which is this guy, and the trigger just drops in like that. The rear of it just pushes down, and it's all seated, and the trigger is going to be to the rear, which is where you want it to be. And now with this, it's going to be a little bit different just for some of you guys because I have a grip force adapter on this. So we're going to fit this grip force adapter, which has this almost, I guess, a flange on here that goes over the grip, just like that. You're going to line your holes up, and I'm going to start one side and start pushing it. And just keep on pushing it. It's getting close, and there it is. And just sort of even it up, and now that's on there. So let's see what else we got. Now we have our block. The block sits right in here. One second, guys. Alright guys, sorry about that. So next thing we got is our slide stop. So, which is that guy right there. And that guy goes, there's a hole or a slit right there that it's going to slide into. And we're just going to slide it right in there just like that. Now we're going to start putting our pins in. This big pin goes in your bottom just like that. Now sometimes you end up with a little issue, but if you just push this, your slide stop back and forth, and up and down, it goes right in just like that. And now we'll put your top pin in just like that, and it slides in just fine. And we'll just, for sake of being OCD, we'll even everything up. There we go. Nice. So let's see. Next we got the rest of our slide, and grab one thing. Be right back, guys. Alright, sorry about that, guys. Had to let the dog in. He's gonna start barking and going crazy. So we got our frame put together, and we have, let me get some of this stuff out of the way. We have our slide yet to put together. Now, before we do our slide, I'm going to do a few things. And this is what I use for lubing most of my guns. Just this multi-duty complex grease. It's just high temperature wheel bearing grease. You can get this stuff for, I don't know, like 1 or 2 pounds for $5 at any Walmart or AutoZone or whatever. It's just the red grease. It looks like that. It smells like grease smells. So some of the points on the Glocks we need to lube are the barrel. And you see anywhere you have significant wear right there on the barrel. And what I found easier to use is a syringe. And I got this at actually from a guy in a class I went to, and it's just a 30cc syringe. You could pick up any like Tractor Supply or like a farm supply shop, and we're just going to put a little bit on there and just sort of rub it in, just so you got a kind of a thin sheen on it. It don't take much. Alright, that's it. Now we'll put a little bit on these locking lugs and move it around. Just use my punch and just kind of get it in there. Come on, there we go. Alright. Now we just wipe off some of the excess. Alright, there's that. That's done. Now the spring I'm not going to lubricate. I might just give it a shot of this M Pro. So let's Just gave it a shot of it, and we'll shake it off. You know, like Taylor Swift says. Alright. Lubricant's going to lubricate. So there we go. Now we have, and you could use rim oil, you could use just about whatever. And it'll work just fine. I just want a little bit of, you know, friction suppressant in there. Now we're going to lubricate right here at the top of the slide, and that's where your barrel's riding, where the top of your barrel rides. And so we're going to put a shot. Can't really get it, so we're just going to grab a little finger, just a dab will do you, and we'll run this right in there and right up to the front, just like that. Just rubbing it in. That's it. Now we'll also do the rails. What I find is a little bit easier to do is just put a small bead right there, and we'll put a small, now I don't know if you guys can see, I just put a small bead right there, and just put a small bead right there. So right there and right there. And we'll go ahead and get this thing assembled again. We'll drop a barrel in, just like that. We'll drop our spring in, just like that. And we'll go ahead and, oh, that's the other thing. And let me grab some oil. Be right back. Alright guys, sorry about that. Went ahead and just grabbed some oil, and this is just regular old like gas station oil. And the only thing I'm going to use the oil on is that spring right there. And it's really the only thing that needs to have oil on it as far as Glocks go. Of course, you can use oil to oil your gun in just that one. And we're going to make sure we get it all nice and in there. And all I'm doing is holding this whatchamadoober down, pulling the trigger, and just making it work that oil into the spring. And we'll probably put just a little bit, just a drop, right there where the spring hooks in. Just a dab will do you. If I can get a drop to come on out. There we go. And we'll just work that back and forth. Now the reason I use grease is if you do a lot of high volume shooting, of course, if you're a civilian and we'll just put, if you're not in a combat area, you're not going to do any high volume shooting unless you're at a class, and that's once a weekend usually, or maybe one weekend out of the month. But if you're an instructor and you're going to be shooting a lot, if you're downrange, I highly recommend using this grease because it doesn't burn off when your gun gets hot, and it stays where you put it, whereas oil will stay pretty well in the general area of where you put it, but the problem is once it gets hot, it starts to burn off and it starts to move around in the gun, and you sort of want it where you put it. So that's why I like grease. I've used oil before, it works fine. I haven't had any malfunctions or anything due to lubrication before. So it's just what works for me and what I think will work pretty damn well for you guys as well. So let's get this wrapped up. So that oil's all nice and worked in. We'll just attach our slide again, and our slide, these holes correspond to these rails, and just slip on just like that. And we're just gonna rack this a few times and see if there's any excess grease coming out. Nope, no excess grease coming out. I'll do a functions check, pull the trigger, click, and you're holding the trigger back, so you can do the original trigger pull, hold it to the rear, okay? Do it one more time. So original trigger pull, hold it to the rear, rack the slide, and get your reset. So everything is working fine. Now it's just a matter of getting loaded back up. So in the name of Scott Danger Check Harrison, let's get this thing dangered up. And we're good to go. So guys, that's it. I appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions, let me know. And any bitches, gripes, complaints, leave them down below and I'll take care of those. And you guys have a good one. Thanks.